Xi Jinping was born into the very heart of China's revolutionary elite, a world of immense privilege and, well, precarious power. His birth on June 15, 1953, in Beijing placed him among the princelings, the children of the Communist Party's founding fathers. His father, Xi Zhongxun, was a revered veteran of the Long March and a close comrade of Mao Zedong, eventually rising to the rank of vice premier. This lineage afforded the young Xi an upbringing that was simultaneously steeped in ideological fervor and material comfort, a stark contrast to the lives of most Chinese citizens at the time. He lived in the exclusive compounds reserved for high-ranking officials and attended elite schools where the curriculum was designed to mold the next generation of loyal party leaders. This rarefied existence, however, was built on the shifting sands of Chinese politics. The early years of the People's Republic were marked by intense internal power struggles, and no one, regardless of their revolutionary credentials, was truly safe. Xi Zhongxun was known for his relatively moderate views, a disposition that would ultimately prove to be his undoing. In 1962, he was abruptly purged from his high-ranking position after being falsely accused of supporting a novel deemed critical of Mao. Suddenly, the Xi family was cast out from the inner circle, their name tarnished and their loyalty questioned. The world that had once protected and privileged them turned hostile overnight, marking the end of Xi Jinping's idyllic childhood. The fall from grace was swift and brutal. The family was labeled counter-revolutionary, a political death sentence in Mao's China. The comfortable life in Beijing's leadership compounds vanished, replaced by suspicion, surveillance, and social ostracism. For a young boy on the cusp of his teenage years, this sudden reversal of fortune was a deeply confusing and traumatic experience. He was forced to navigate a new reality where his family name was a liability rather than a source of pride. This early lesson in political vulnerability would become a defining feature of his worldview, teaching him that power was not only something to be gained, but also something that could be lost in an instant. This paradox of being born into privilege only to have it violently stripped away instilled in Xi a complex understanding of the Communist Party. He witnessed firsthand how the very system his father had helped build could turn against its own with merciless efficiency. Yet his father's unwavering loyalty to the party, even in the face of persecution, left an indelible mark. This experience did not breed cynicism toward the party itself, but rather a conviction that it needed a strong, unchallengeable leader to prevent the kind of chaos and internal strife that had torn his family apart. It was a formative lesson in the unforgiving nature of power and the absolute necessity of maintaining control. The political turmoil that began with his father's purge intensified dramatically with the onset of the Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution in 1966. What had been a personal family crisis now became a national cataclysm, and the Xi family was caught directly in its destructive path. At the tender age of 13, Xi Jinping watched as zealous Red Guards, many of them his own peers, ransacked his home, destroying family heirlooms and symbols of their former status. He was forced to witness the public humiliation of his own father, who was paraded through the streets and subjected to brutal struggle sessions, a form of public denunciation designed to break the spirit of its victims. This period was one of profound personal suffering, a time when the bonds of family and society were torn asunder by radical ideology. The chaos of the era spared no one. Xi himself was targeted, branded as the son of a counter-revolutionary. He was paraded on stage with a heavy iron dunce cap on his head and was denounced by his own mother, who had little choice but to condemn her husband to protect her other children. The psychological toll of these events was immense, compounded by the loss of his half-sister, who reportedly took her own life under the intense political pressure. For a teenager, this was an education in survival, a brutal immersion into the darkest aspects of human nature and political extremism. He learned to suppress his emotions, to mistrust those around him, and to navigate a world where any word or action could be used against him. In 1969, as part of Mao's Down to the Countryside movement, millions of urban youths were sent to rural areas for re-education through labor. At 16, Xi Jinping was dispatched to the remote and impoverished village of Liangjiahe in Shanxi province, a barren, windswept region of Loess plateaus. This was not a voluntary assignment, but an exile. He was sent to a place vastly different from the sophisticated political circles of Beijing, a place where life was a daily struggle against the elements. He, along with other sent-down youth, was expected to shed his bourgeois intellectualism and learn the value of hard labor from the peasants, effectively erasing his privileged past. The transition was a shock to the system. From the relative comfort of a city, even one in turmoil, he was thrust into a life of primitive hardship. He lived in a yaodong, a traditional cave dwelling dug into the side of a hill, which offered meager protection from the harsh winters and sweltering summers. His days were filled with grueling physical tasks, tilling the land, hauling coal, and building dams. The work was relentless, and the food was scarce. In this unforgiving environment, the princeling from Beijing was forced to confront the stark realities of rural poverty and the immense gap between the party's revolutionary rhetoric and the lived experience of the Chinese masses. The 7 years Xi Jinping spent in Liangjiahe were the most formative of his life, a period he has repeatedly referred to as a personal crucible that made him who he is today. Initially, the hardship was overwhelming. The backbreaking labor, the fleas that infested his bedding, and the constant hunger were a world away from anything he had ever known. He tried to escape once, fleeing back to Beijing, only to be arrested and sent to a labor camp for several months before being returned to the village. This failed attempt taught him a critical lesson. There was no escaping his fate. The only way forward was to endure, to adapt, and to master the environment that was meant to break him. With this realization, his attitude began to shift. Instead of resisting his circumstances, he started to embrace them. He worked harder than anyone else, earning the respect of the local villagers, who had initially been wary of the city boy with a politically tainted background. He learned to carry heavy loads of wheat on his shoulders for miles along rugged mountain paths and became adept at the agricultural rhythms of the village. He shed the last vestiges of his urban identity and became, in his own words, one of the peasants. This transformation was not just about physical endurance. It was about building genuine connections with the people and understanding their struggles on a visceral level. His time in the countryside was also an education in practical leadership. Seeing the inefficiencies and hardships of village life, he took the initiative to implement changes. He organized a youth league and, drawing on knowledge he brought from Beijing, led a project to build the village's first methane pit. This biogas digester provided a source of clean fuel for cooking and lighting, a significant improvement in the quality of life for the villagers. This project demonstrated his ability to identify a problem, mobilize resources, and deliver a tangible result, earning him a reputation as a capable and resourceful young man. It was his first taste of public service, and a successful one at that. By the time he left Liangjiahe in 1975, Xi was no longer the disillusioned teenager who had arrived 7 years earlier. He had been tempered by hardship and had developed a deep sense of resilience, patience, and pragmatism. He had learned the importance of perseverance and the value of connecting with the common people. This experience gave him a grassroots credibility that many of his princeling peers lacked. While they may have had connections in the capital, Xi had a profound understanding of China's vast rural interior. This period of exile, intended to punish and re-educate him, had inadvertently provided him with the perfect training ground for a future political leader. Despite the immense suffering the Communist Party had inflicted upon his family, Xi Jinping never lost faith in the institution itself. Instead, his experiences solidified his belief that his destiny, and indeed his survival, was intertwined with the party. To regain his family's honor and to build any semblance of a future for himself, he knew he had to become a part of the very organization that had cast him out. Joining the Chinese Communist Party became his singular obsession, a way to prove his loyalty and wash away the political stain of his father's purge. He sought to become redder than red, demonstrating an ideological purity that would overcome the black mark against his name. This was no easy task. His family's counter-revolutionary status made him a politically undesirable candidate. Local party officials in Liangjiahe were hesitant to accept him, fearing that associating with the son of a disgraced leader would bring trouble upon themselves. His applications were rejected time and time again. Each rejection was a reminder of his precarious position, a reinforcement of the political stigma that clung to him. Yet, with the same determination he applied to his farm labor, Xi refused to give up. He persisted, filling out the application forms and submitting them with unwavering regularity, even as others might have abandoned the effort as hopeless. His tenacity was remarkable. In total, Xi Jinping applied to join the Communist Youth League 8 times and the Communist Party itself 10 times before he was finally accepted. This relentless pursuit was a testament to his political acumen and his deep understanding of how the system worked. He knew that perseverance was a valued trait, and that by demonstrating his unwavering commitment, he could eventually wear down the resistance of local cadres. He used his hard work and his successful methane pit project as evidence of his revolutionary spirit and his dedication to serving the people, building a case for his membership that became increasingly difficult to ignore. His eventual acceptance into the party in 1974 was a monumental victory, the culmination of years of patient effort. It was the first crucial step in his long journey back from political exile. Soon after, he was not only a member, but was elevated to the position of party secretary for the Liang Jiahe Production Brigade, a remarkable turnaround for the son of a political pariah. This success was a powerful lesson in political strategy. Loyalty, persistence, and a track record of practical achievement could overcome even the most significant political obstacles. He had successfully navigated the treacherous currents of the Cultural Revolution, emerging not as a victim, but as a survivor with a clear path forward. In 1975, a new opportunity arose that would dramatically alter the course of Xi Jinping's life. China's universities, which had been closed for years during the height of the Cultural Revolution, began to reopen. Admission was not based on academic exams, but on political recommendations. As the respected party secretary of his village, Xi was in a prime position to be nominated. He secured a coveted spot to study at the prestigious Tsinghua University in Beijing, an institution often called the MIT of China. His admission was a testament to the political capital he had painstakingly built in Liangjiahe and marked his official return from the political wilderness to the country's capital. He enrolled in the chemical engineering department, a practical, non-ideological field that was considered a safe choice during a time of political uncertainty. Returning to Beijing was a surreal experience. The city he had been exiled from was now his home again, but he was a changed man. His university years were less about radical politics and more about disciplined study. He and his classmates, many of whom also came from backgrounds of hardship, were hungry for knowledge and eager to contribute to the nation's modernization. This period allowed him to build a new network of contacts among the future technocratic elite of China, connections that would prove invaluable later in his career. After graduating in 1979, Xi leveraged his princeling connections, which were slowly being restored as his father was politically rehabilitated. He secured a highly sought-after position as a secretary to General Geng Biao, who was then the Minister of National Defense and a close associate of his father. This role was a crucial stepping stone. It plunged him directly into the heart of the central government and the military establishment in Beijing. For 3 years, he worked in the inner sanctum of power, observing high-level decision-making, learning the protocols of governance, and gaining an invaluable first-hand understanding of the People's Liberation Army. This early exposure to the military was particularly significant. It allowed him to cultivate relationships with senior military figures and develop an appreciation for the PLA's central role in upholding the party's authority. Unlike many of his civilian peers, Xi gained an insider's perspective on national security and defense matters. This experience provided him with a unique and powerful credential that would distinguish him from other political aspirants. The young man who had once been sent to the countryside to learn from peasants was now learning the art of statecraft at the highest levels of the Chinese government, methodically acquiring the skills and connections needed for a career in politics. In 1985, Xi Jinping made a calculated and, honestly, kind of unusual career move. Instead of staying in the comfortable and powerful corridors of Beijing, he actually requested a transfer to the provinces. He chose to take up a post as deputy mayor of Xiamen, which is a coastal city in Fujian province. This decision was really driven by his desire to build genuine administrative experience and grassroots credentials, moving away from a career path that could easily be dismissed as simple nepotism. Fujian, located directly across the strait from Taiwan, was right at the forefront of China's reform and opening up policy. It was a dynamic and challenging environment, really the perfect place for an ambitious young official to prove his mettle and make a name for himself. For nearly 2 decades, from 1985 to 2002, Fujian became Xi's political home. He served in a series of progressively more senior roles, just methodically working his way up the provincial hierarchy. This long tenure in a single province is actually pretty rare for top Chinese leaders, and it allowed him to develop a deep understanding of local governance. In Fujian, he focused on attracting foreign investment, particularly from Taiwan and Hong Kong, and championed market-oriented economic development. He gained a reputation as a pragmatic and business-friendly administrator, someone who was much more interested in delivering economic results than in empty ideological pronouncements. During his time in Fujian, Xi also began to hone his anti-corruption credentials. He spearheaded a major cleanup of a massive smuggling and corruption scandal in Xiamen, which implicated numerous high-ranking officials. By tackling graft head-on, he demonstrated his commitment to clean government and showed his willingness to confront entrenched interests. This was a risky endeavor, but it really burnished his reputation as a disciplined and principled leader. He also continued to cultivate his ties with the local military garrison, serving concurrently in political roles within the army, which further strengthened the military connections he had first established while working for General Geng Biao. And while serving as a busy provincial official, Xi undertook another ambitious project, earning a doctorate degree. From 1998 to 2002, he pursued a part-time PhD in Marxist theory and ideological education from his alma mater, Tsinghua University. This move was strategic, enhancing his intellectual and ideological standing within the party. It signaled that he was not just a pragmatic technocrat, but also a serious student of communist doctrine. The combination of his practical economic management, his tough stance on corruption, and his advanced degree in political theory created the profile of a well-rounded and exceptionally prepared leader, ready for greater responsibilities. In 2002, Xi Jinping was promoted and transferred to the neighboring province of Zhejiang, this time as its top official, the provincial party secretary. If Fujian had been his apprenticeship, Zhejiang was where he would really showcase his mastery of governance. Zhejiang was one of China's wealthiest provinces, a vibrant hub of private enterprise and entrepreneurial spirit. Leading this economic powerhouse required a delicate touch, the ability to foster growth without losing political control. Xi proved to be exceptionally skilled at this balancing act, championing the private sector while making sure it developed in a way that aligned with the party's long-term goals. During his 5 years in Zhejiang, he cultivated an image as a low-key, down-to-earth leader who was both pro-business and pro-people. He frequently visited private companies, listening to the concerns of entrepreneurs, and working to create a more favorable business environment. He actually coined the Zhejiang model, an approach that emphasized the importance of a dynamic private sector operating under the firm guidance of the state. His policies were credited with helping the province achieve remarkable economic growth, further cementing his reputation as a highly competent and effective administrator. He was seen as a leader who really understood how to manage a modern market-driven economy. Beyond his economic policies, Xi worked diligently to build a reputation for personal integrity. In a political system where corruption was rampant, he was known for being clean. He made a point of living modestly and enforced strict rules on the conduct of officials under his command. This emphasis on probity resonated with both the public and the party leadership in Beijing, who were increasingly concerned about the corrosive effects of graft on the party's legitimacy. His clean record made him a safe and attractive candidate for higher office, since he appeared untainted by the scandals that had brought down many of his contemporaries. His leadership style in Zhejiang was a direct reflection of the lessons he had learned throughout his life. The pragmatism he displayed was honed by his practical work in Liangjiahe and Fujian. His focus on order and discipline was a product of witnessing the chaos of the Cultural Revolution. His ability to connect with ordinary people and business owners was rooted in his own experiences outside the elite circles of Beijing. By the time he left Zhejiang in 2007, he had established a powerful and compelling political brand. A pragmatic modernizer, a tough enforcer of discipline, and a leader who understood the needs of both the people and private enterprise. In March 2007, Xi Jinping was abruptly transferred to China's most important metropolis, Shanghai, to serve as its party secretary. This was no ordinary promotion. It was a crisis appointment. His predecessor, Chen Liangyu, a powerful member of the Politburo, had been dramatically ousted in a high-profile corruption scandal that had sent shockwaves through the country's political establishment. Shanghai, the glittering symbol of China's economic miracle, was in turmoil, its leadership disgraced and its reputation tarnished. The party's central leadership needed a steady hand to restore order, and they turned to Xi Jinping. His posting to Shanghai was widely seen as a final test. The city was a notoriously complex political environment, with powerful vested interests and a history of being a launchpad for the nation's top leaders, including Jiang Zemin. Xi's mission was twofold: to clean up the mess left by the scandal, and to demonstrate that he had the political skill and gravitas to manage the country's most significant city. He had to act decisively to reassure the public, the business community, and the party elite that Shanghai was in capable hands. His performance in this high-stakes role would likely determine whether he would ascend to the very top of the political pyramid. Xi handled the challenge with remarkable speed and efficiency. He immediately moved to stabilize the situation, projecting an image of calm authority. He pledged to continue Shanghai's economic development while simultaneously launching a renewed anti-corruption drive to root out any remaining vestiges of Chen Liangyu's network. He met with foreign executives to reassure them of the city's stability and commitment to being a global financial hub. He skillfully avoided getting bogged down in factional disputes, instead focusing on restoring confidence and getting the city's government back on track. His 7-month tenure was short but highly effective. He passed the Shanghai test with flying colors. By quickly and competently managing the crisis, he proved to the party elders that he possessed the political toughness, administrative skill, and loyalty required for national leadership. He had shown he could handle a major political scandal, navigate a complex urban environment, and command respect on a national stage. His successful, albeit brief stint in Shanghai was the final item on his resume, really the capstone to a long and carefully constructed career. He had now proven himself at every level of governance, from a poor rural village to China's most dynamic modern city, leaving no doubt that he was ready for the ultimate promotion. The culmination of Xi Jinping's long and arduous journey came at the 17th Party Congress in October 2007. Having successfully navigated his final test in Shanghai, he was elevated directly to the Politburo Standing Committee, the 9-member body that constitutes the apex of power in China. More significantly, he was ranked above Li Keqiang, his main rival for the top job, making it clear to all observers that he was the designated successor to then-President Hu Jintao. After decades of patient work, from the desolate caves of Shanxi to the bustling boardrooms of Shanghai, Xi had finally arrived at the center of power. He was now the heir apparent to the leadership of the world's most populous nation. The 5 years between his appointment to the Standing Committee and his ultimate assumption of power in 2012 were a period of careful preparation. As vice president, he took on a series of important portfolios, overseeing key areas such as the 2008 Beijing Olympics, which showcased China's rising global stature. He traveled extensively, meeting with world leaders and burnishing his foreign policy credentials. During this time, he remained cautious and inscrutable, giving few hints of the bold and assertive leadership style he would later adopt. He played the role of the loyal deputy, patiently waiting in the wings while consolidating his support within the party, the government, and crucially, the military. His rise to power can be seen as the logical outcome of a lifetime of preparation. The trauma of the Cultural Revolution instilled in him a deep-seated belief in the need for order and a strong central authority to prevent chaos. His years of hard labor in Liangjiahe gave him a connection to the common people and a reservoir of resilience. His long tenure in Fujian and Zhejiang provided him with deep administrative experience and a reputation for pragmatic, results-oriented governance. His brief but critical time in Shanghai demonstrated his ability to handle a crisis and manage complex political interests. Each stage of his life contributed a vital skill or value to his political toolkit. When he finally became General Secretary of the Communist Party in November 2012, Xi Jinping was arguably one of the most well-prepared leaders in the history of the People's Republic. He was not just a princeling who had inherited power. nor was he simply a technocrat who had risen through the bureaucracy. He was a unique synthesis of both, a man whose life story mirrored the tumultuous history of modern China itself. From the heights of the Red Aristocracy to the depths of political persecution and back again, his journey forged a leader with an unshakable belief in the destiny of the Communist Party and a steely determination to steer China into what he would call its new era.